What is going on, everybody? It's your boy Luke. Super excited to get into this live stream. Got the British Open, St. Andrews. There's excitement in the air. Really looking forward to tomorrow. And in this live stream, going to get you prepared with all of the last second stuff you need for building your lineups. I know a lot of you have probably already built some, or at the very least started to look at your lineup building process. So maybe it's just double checking some of those last people in, or maybe your last second scrambling to make your lineups. In either circumstance, gonna have you covered there. I can see a few of you already down there in chat. So what's going on, Wilson Dog? Got Gary Kerr down there. We've got Wilson, who says absolutely love Chan Kim as a long shot, who I'm not on personally, but he's a very solid player, so I could see it. Jeff says, are you worried about Homa playing with Tiger? He's always wanted to play with him since he was a kid. I'm actually more worried about the guys playing ahead or behind of Tiger. That's what you've heard historically from media members, is that the guys ahead, get a lot of the shuffling in their backswings, or even the guys behind deal with a lot of the extra chatter and whatnot. So I'm not as worried about Homa as I am some of the other people around him. So it's the Tiger effect is quite a unique one out there. It's something that it's kind of hard to quantify too. It's like, how do we even try and attack that, right? Is it going to be like one shot worse, two shots worse? It's a little bit hard to try and figure out there. We got Maxwell. He says, Ju Young Kim plus 105 against Patrick Reed. I don't hate it. I love myself some Ju Young, obviously. I told you guys just how much I loved him during our value picks video. I could see it, especially against Patrick Reed, who's kind of been struggling. And Justin, for the last comment before we hop into weather, which is what the first thing we're going to touch on here is he says, Higo top 10. Let me know his odds on that, because that really comes down to the odds, Justin. I could see it, but you obviously got to be getting some value there. Let me go ahead and bring up my weather screen here. Let's bring up Wind Finder. Go through what we're looking at here on St. Andrews, which is a slight weather advantage. I do see the AM PM wave maybe being slightly easier than the PM AM wave, but I'm not sure it's something I'm going all in on. So let's talk through it. Let's figure out why I think it might be slightly advantageous. And first off, it comes to Thursday. This is where the main edge is. During the morning wave, you have like 7 to 12 miles an hour of winds. So particularly for the guys teeing off super early, right around like 6:30 a.m., there'll actually be a few tee times. They're going to have the lowest winds of the entire tournament. So single digits, but it does kick up right around 9 to 10 a.m. Local time there. So it isn't going to last for their entire round. Maybe they'll get like 9 to 10 holes in with that solid conditions, but they will have to finish up in at least 12 to maybe 20 mile an hour wind gusts. In the afternoon, it's going to sustain right around that 12 miles an hour and kick up to right around 16 to 18 towards the bare end. So that's where you see a lot of that advantage. The guys that are teeing off right around midday or later are certainly going to have to combat with 16 to 18 miles an hour of sustained winds, but the wind gusts aren't all that much different, right? It's 18 miles an hour here around 3 to 4 p.m. Whereas, at 10 to 11 a.m., it's 17 to 18 miles an hour. So it's not like the top end wind gusts are going to be a massive difference between the two waves, which is usually the most important stat we're looking at when it comes to trying to quantify the effect of weather. But certainly, the guys that are going off really early, I know Webb Simpson is one of the few guys that's in the first group there, are going to have at least somewhat of an advantage. On Friday, you see it kind of continue, though. So in the morning, you can see the wind gusts are slightly higher than the afternoon. And also, there's a little bit of rain in the forecast. So if you look at a few of the weather sites, you'll see anywhere from 60 to right around 65% chance of rain from right around, I believe, 3 a.m. the whole way out here to like 9 to 10 a.m. So they don't necessarily know when that storm's going to come through. But I would imagine if it's early in the morning, the entire day is going to play a lot easier than what we see here on Thursday. And if it ends up coming through during the morning wave, that could derail a few players, right? When you have extra moisture out there, it does add length to the golf course, which isn't really an issue here. It's going to be relatively firm going into the week. But more importantly, any moisture on your club face can lead to a little bit more dispersion in your shots, right? You can miss a little bit more left to right. You especially saw that at the Wells Fargo Championship, and it's really only an issue when it's really coming down, right? If it's just a sprinkle, you're going to be able to wipe off your club face. You're not going to have that moisture on your, that much moisture, I should say, actually on your club face. But if you're dealing with, a downpour, something that's a little bit more consistent, which they'll play through a downpour, right? Unless there's lightning in the area, then things get a little bit hairy. So I don't know how much I'm buying in on that, but if you were going to play a stack definitely when you're in Scotland, I think you should be playing stacks. It would be the AM PM wave. I wouldn't go the PM AM in really any stacks because I don't see it being advantageous, right? We're getting relatively close to lock here. We're like 6.5 hours from the first tee time, something like that. We know that tomorrow afternoon is going to be relatively difficult, and I don't see it being completely made up for here on Friday, right? We're almost an entire day and a quarter out from something here on Friday. Things could change rather wildly, but I'm not sure they're going to change enough to really make that PM AM stack advantageous. So I will have some stacks. It's going to be right around 25 to 30% of my lineups, where I'll be playing 5-1s or even 6-0s of the AM PM stacks. But outside of that, it's going to be a lot of just straight up lineups. And let me give you the reasoning for that, right? Obviously, there could be, let's say, a half stroke, maybe even an entire stroke difference between the two waves. But if you look at the last 4 times that we've had a quote unquote weather situation, so PGA Championship, US Open, there was a little bit of a weather situation, Players Championship, and before that at Kapalua, there was a slight advantage between the two waves. In all 4 circumstances, I believe the most amount that was stacked in one wave was 4. It was like a 4-2 lineup. So, and especially at the PGA Championship, where it was like almost a 2-stroke difference between the two waves. I believe the stack that ended up taking it down, or at least was optimal, was a 4-2 stack. Justin Thomas and there was one other guy from the PM wave as well there. Either circumstance, right? That was a massive difference, and you still had a 4-2, right? So I don't think you want to overdo it, right? If you're playing in smaller field stuff, cash lineups, if you're playing in, let's say, 1,000 or 2,000 entry contest, then I implore you, go with the stack method. Because if you're just looking for, let's say, a top 20th, top 30th percentile type performance, I think it makes a lot of sense. It gives you a higher baseline, of course, just higher median projections, and going down and taking down something where you don't have to be perfect is a lot easier. But if you're trying to take down large field GPPs, I think you should be, let's say, favoring the AM PM stack, right? Trying to take guys that are maybe teeing off early. If you're trying to choose between 2 players, but you shouldn't only be playing guys in the AM. I would definitely sprinkle in guys playing in the PM wave, particularly guys that are used to playing in windy conditions, right? There's a few guys that come to mind. Jordan Spieth's a great wind player. Same thing with Justin Thomas, that I'm not going to get off of just because of this like half a stroke to 1 stroke difference. So I think that's important to touch on just to, before we hop into the player pool and whatnot, is I do think that there will be a slight advantage. I just don't think it's big enough to act on in a wholesale manner, right? Like I said, 25 to 30% of my lineups are going to have a stack that's playing the AM PM wave. I'm not going to have any PM AM stacks. I'm not going in any in that direction, but it's not going to be all my lineups. That's for sure. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I'll bring up my projections. I'll also catch up on the live stream, see what we got going down there. We got Matthew says last safe play, $6,800 and below. We'll go with Chris Kirk. He's $6,800. I really like him at that price tag. So I know we're jumping around the board here a little bit, but his wedge play is off the board. He's a great tee to green player. Maybe not the best putter, but if I'm taking somebody in the 6K range, right, I want them to have putter issues, right? From tee to green, if they're going to be really consistent, a top 20 player in the field, that's the type of guy I'm willing to take a shot on. Now, in a large field GPP, maybe he doesn't have as much upside. Let's get a good comparison here. As to maybe somebody like Lucas Herbert, who when Herbert brings his A game, right, he could legitimately crack the top 5 or even top 3 at this event. Chris Kirk's probably finishing in the top 10 if he has a solid week. I like his consistency. So if you're talking about a safe guy, and I think that's the key word that you gave me there, it would be Chris Kirk. Kevin Lane, what's going on? He says, thoughts on Dylan Wu and Joo Young Kim in a GPP. First off, love Joo Young Kim, one of my favorite plays on the slate. But Dylan Wu at $6,100 is just a crazy price tag. So they added in a few guys late that were qualifiers. So Brandon Wu was one of them. Luke List got into the field late. He's $6,800. Let's see. There's a few other ones that are just glaring misprices. Hal Tong Lee, $6,900 is a pretty decent price. A lot of the guys that were added late, Jordan L. Smith, for example, at $7,200, Brandon Wu at $61. These guys are all way lower priced than they should be because the pricing this week, I mean, it's a major championship, but I mean, it's up there, right? You got $11,000 golfers. You got a bunch of guys in the 9K range. I mean, the last time we were at a major, you had guys like Shane Lowry, who was like $8,600, $8,700, right? Now he's $9,300, which is fair. I mean, even guys like Dustin, right? You could probably get him closer to $8,800 and $9,200. It's tough pricing this time. So getting those guys that are seemingly mispriced give you a lot of flexibility. So Kevin, I think it makes a lot of sense. Especially, $6,500 for Joo Young, $6,100 for Brandon Wu. I think it makes a lot of sense. Ryan Schmidt says Tiger over Bryson at plus money. I'm all over that. First off, Bryson, I expect him to struggle around the green here. His around the green game is spotty at best. And Tiger, I'm really all in on him. The more and more I think about Tiger Woods this week, the more I think he's top 10. The more I think he legitimately might top 5. It seems ridiculous, especially when you look at what he was doing at the PGA Championship. But this is a completely different venue for him walking. But more than that, he's like the perfect fit here. I mean, for St. Andrews, you could not chalk up a better skill set than Tiger Woods for. And you've seen that play out. Anytime he's played here, he's walked away from the field, right? And now he's at a different stage of his career. He's not going to walk away from a field. But, even him at, like I mentioned, 50% Tiger Woods is probably making the cut here. Imagine an 80% Tiger Woods. I honestly think that's enough for a top 10. So, Ryan, I'm with you on that, particularly because Bryson's looked spotty at best on the Live Tour. And for goodness sakes, the Live Tour is not necessarily the highest level of competition. Jack Fisher says, how about Richard Mansell, 12-1 for a top 20? I'm going to have to pass on that. Richard Mansell, I've heard his name thrown around a lot. He's obviously a lot more familiar to European Tour favorites, the guys that are watching that week to week. I don't know enough about him. Even with what we've seen the last two performances where he's been in PGA Tour fields, I haven't seen enough to really want to buy in on it, right? He hasn't shown us outrageous stats in any one category. So if we start to see him laying the foundation of solid approach play or solid off the tee play, something like that, Fisher, where we have these shots gained metrics, then I'll want to buy in. I think it's a little bit too early for me. Nick says, thoughts on Kokrak? I'm not a huge fan of him this week, to be honest. I'll have to see on that. Justin says 12-1 is nice. A lot of books have Mansell at 10-1 right now. Yeah, so if you're getting value and you're a believer on his skill set, then yeah, go for it. Absolutely. I could see it. Again, I'm just not a huge... I'm not familiar with his game. I don't want to say I'm a huge Mansell guy. I don't know him enough. Maybe I will be someday. Wilson says, Mackenzie Hughes thoughts. I like him. He seems to play well at difficult tracks. I mean, you think about Torrey Pines. He showed up on that leaderboard. He showed up at the Open last year for quite a bit. He thrives in firm and fast conditions, which makes sense for a short game specialist. So I'll be there, Wilson. It makes sense to me. Planet Warrior says, thoughts on Seamus as a top debut player? He's finished top 15 in all three major championships so far. I find him hard to avoid this week. So yeah, I would agree with you there, Planet. Who else would we consider for that? So let me think. We've got all the rookies, right? So you have Cam Young, who could be potentially in that conversation. Let me think. Who else hasn't played an Open before? I don't know. I think he might be onto something there because a lot of the guys here have played it. I mean, everyone priced below him, I would definitely take Power over him. I really like Power at his price tag. And of the guys above him, right, it's Cam Young? I like that. I think that makes a lot of sense. There's a lot of competition out there, Planet. So that's why you're getting quite solid odds on that, even though he is probably the best option in the field. But I could see it. Wavy says, my favorite Luke. Everyone like, subscribe, and share. Good luck this week. Couldn't agree more, Wavy. Best of luck with all of your lineups. And yeah, if you haven't already hit that like button, make sure you go out and do that and subscribe so you don't miss anything in the future. You got Matthew who says, Connors or Bobby Mack? That's going to be Bobby Mack for me. He thrives in difficult conditions. Wilson Dog says, we don't talk about Mansell. He isn't good in PGA golf. He might be good on the European Tour, though, and that'll eventually translate. So, Wilson, I know as much crap I gave you for that before. I don't know. I've heard a lot of good things about him from people that I really respect on the European Tour. So maybe I need to back that up, Wilson. Maybe you were onto something there. I won't be there this week, but if he shows us anything, man, I'll be there in the future. I'm always willing to take shots on European Tour players. Paul Jackson says, Keith Mitchell, $6,900, follower and RNA member. Yeah, I've been hearing about that a lot. Has some local ties. His sister went to school in St. Andrews. Said he dreamed about playing the Open. So that's a lot of narrative based. I like him outside the narrative. So if you're looking at just, a high upside player, a great iron player, which is the main thing I'm looking for this week, he might not be very consistent with those irons, but he can spike in that department. So I'm with you on that, Paul. I don't hate it. Narrative aside, I think he's a solid play. The issue becomes the ownership, right? So let me stop sharing my screen so I can bring up my ownership and get an accurate look at this here, guys. I believe he was out of my poll due to ownership, but let me just double check on that and make sure. Yeah, so he's chalk because of that. So I agree with you. A lot of that definitely points to him having a solid week. But with Keith Mitchell, where's Killer Keith at here? I got a Control F on my spreadsheet. It's a great look. There we go, $6,900. I'm at 7.5% right now, which if you compare him to the other guys in that range, he's 3, 4, maybe even 5 times as owned. And he's twice as owned as somebody like Chris Kirk. And he's 5 times as owned as somebody like Kevin Na. So for me, he's not going to be in my personal player pool just because I think the only reason he's as high owned as he is because of some of that narrative there. I don't hate the play, though. I like the skill set fit. So that's what I said. Going into the week, I didn't know that about Keith Mitchell. So I was on the train. I was going to play him this week. I'm just not sure I can do it anymore, Paul. It's anytime those narratives, are coming in on a player going into the week, it inflates ownership on the player. It doesn't make them a bad play, right? The narrative, right? You can just throw that aside. take a look. Is Keith Mitchell worth it at 7.5%? And it's close. It's a close fade for me. I don't want to take him in 20% of my lineups, at least like 16, 17%, like I'll need to. So it's a pass for me, but I understand it. I think a lot of people will be there with you. Will definitely be a popular pick. Tom C says, I'm thinking you can make some good lineups just looking at the top 15 players on the DP World Tour rankings. Updated after the Barbasol. You probably could. It'd probably be unique too, Tom. So maybe that's something you want to go with. Planet Warrior says, thanks, Luke. How you feeling about Kisner? Might be a good course fit. I love Kisner. He's kind of one of my best kept secrets for this week. Firm and fast conditions, at least if there's not a ton of rain there on Friday morning, you'd expect that to play into his wheelhouse, obviously getting some extra rollout, playing some more wedges than he's used to out there. So yeah, I like him playing it. But don't go saying that too loud out there. I don't want too many people playing Kisner this week. Matthew says $7,200 and below, who's also safe. Let's see. If you go to $7,200, you got Keegan Bradley. So I'd go with Keegan Bradley with that. He's a great ball striker. And yeah, you're talking about Mansell Wilson. I could see it. You like him. I'm sure you're a fan. Catch Me If You Can says over under total for John Daly Guinness's intake. Let's see. It depends on his first round. If he has a decent round, right, shoots like 75 or something, I imagine he keeps it to like 5 or 6 after the round, which is a healthy amount of Guinness given how high ABV that stuff is. But hey, if he goes out there, he shoots 80, like I kind of expect him there on Thursday. I mean, he's going to go on a full bender, right? 12, 16 Guinnesses, whatever it takes for John Daly. That's why he's a legend, according to some out there. Mark Green says, how about the Aussies this week? A lot of people are saying the firmness of the course is starting to resemble Royal Melbourne. Great call on that. With the fast fairways and greens. Some of the shots you'll have to hit too, right? Dr. Alistair McKenzie design there with Royal Melbourne, similar to Augusta National, which is another course I'm using as a comp this week. So I think you're onto something there, Mark, especially with the creativity needed for your shots. At Royal Melbourne, when it's playing super firm and fast, like what we saw for the President's Cup, you saw they had to really take into account the release and a lot of the humps and undulations that a Dr. Alistair McKenzie design is going to have. So I think you're onto something there, Mark. And in general, right, like Royal Melbourne's just one example, but the Aussie style of golf is like that, right? Sandbelt type golf courses where you have that undulation. It's extremely firm and fast. You're getting a lot of that rollout. I could see it, Mark. That's for sure. Oh, we got a bot down in the chat. Look at that. You get blocked. We're pretty quick to that one this time. Huh. Oh, we got another bot. There's multiple. There we go. We got them both put in place. Don't worry, boys. We were fast on that one this time. Tom T says, who are your fades? Yeah, let's talk through them. So they're on here. I did a video on them, but I'm fading John Rahm. I won't be playing Xander Schauffele once again. That fade did not work out last week, but so it goes. We're going back to it. Patrick Cantlay, I'm not playing. Patrick can't play, as we call him in major championships. And Tommy Fleetwood. God, I wanted to play Fleetwood, but 18.4%. No, thank you. He's the chalkiest player of all of the 8K range, Tommy Fleetwood. No, thank you. I will pivot elsewhere in that range. So those are the 4 guys I'm fading. I guess I'll talk through the Xander fade. I'm at 22.7%. I realistically would not be surprised if he came in closer to like 25, 28%. It really makes sense that he makes sense of this golf course. He's coming in with solid form, right? But this is an open championship. A lot of it is due to luck. You have a lot of variance out there with the pop bunkers, bounces. It's links style golf. You're going to get a lot of those humps and undulations that help you on shots. And it could just as easily send you off the green or to the other side, right? And completely screw you. I mean, you can end up on the other side of a hollow and have an impossible 2-putt, something where you're just hoping to put it to like, let's say 10 to 15 feet for your par. Those could either go Xander's way this week or they couldn't, right? If they go his way, given the form he's in, he's probably winning this, whatever it is, 4 straight events where he goes out there and wins. If he gets the other side of that and let's say 28%, let's say I'm low on his ownership, which I would tend to think he comes in higher than 22.7%, then you're in real business there, right? Somebody who gets those bad bounces, 28% of the field. I don't want to say he's going to miss the cut. I do not think he misses the cut. I think he makes the cut. I just don't think he wins the golf tournament. I don't think he finishes in the top 5. Then you're in business. So it's just a pure game theory play for me. I'm playing in a 150 max. So that's important to note, right? These picks over here, guys, they're catered towards a 150 max. I'm not playing high dollar single entries. I'm not playing 2 to 3 maxes or even a 20 max contest. And in those type of formats, I mean, playing Xander Schauffele at 28%, it's not a smart move. You're really cornering yourself there. I'd have to take a lot of guys in the 6K range. And obviously, I'm not going to talk about my player pool. If you want my full player pool, the guys that are exited out, particularly for like the mid and low tier range guys, we're going to talk about some of them, some of the guys I like. If you want all of them, go to my Patreon page. The link is down below. It's $10 a month. I don't think you're going to spend $10 better elsewhere. I mean, you're getting Patreon spreadsheets for 4-round stuff for all of my spreadsheets for Showdown. You're getting projections and ownership for every single slate. And I do spreadsheets for prize picks where I literally go over every prop on the board and give you hit rates, which no one else out in the industry does that for prize picks. So highly recommend you check it out. But that's also how you can see who else I'm fading up top, because it's not just Xander. It's not just John Rahm. You can't play everyone up top. There's a good amount of guys here in black that aren't in my player pool this week. And there's a few that are in my player pool. To figure out who those guys are, you're going to have to go out and check that out. That's for sure. Let's go ahead and catch up on the questions down here. We got Wilson who says, you like Mansell and DP. Yeah, it makes sense. Ryan Schmidt says, Cam Smith loves the AM PM draw and everyone loves him. Any hesitation playing him as an outright winner? For me, no. I think it makes sense, man. I'm all in on the Bullet Man this week. He's a great course fit. He's got the Aussie narrative going for him. He's in the positive wave. It's hard, man. I'm all in on him. I'm playing the chalk this week. Radar says, so glad you started a Patreon. All in. I agree. It's going pretty well too. We've got a lot more people signed up than I expected to, particularly with the price increase, and it's going smoothly so far. So hopefully we continue to grow that over the next few weeks here, and it's going to get better and better. Neil says, sup guys, what's going on, Neil? And yeah, stop the bots. Yeah, I stopped the bots. That was a little bit annoying for you guys, I'm sure. Planet Warrior says, how you feeling about Fox this week? I wanted to play Fox. I wanted him to miss the cut last week so bad, and he made it on the number with a chip in on his last hole. That chip in, and because of how he played there on Sunday, has his ownership at like 18% right now. The last time I checked, it was right around 18 or 19%. I would love Fox this week, but not at 18% ownership. So for me, it's an ownership thing, Planet. Boy, if he missed the cut last week, it would have been such a great spot. Hef Sterling says, any love for Shane? Yes, he's a good course fit. I like Shane Lowry. Peter says, Adam Scott fits the bill. Nice run at the U.S. Open and coming off a bench, so he's fit. Yeah, I would agree. He's a little bit rested. And what do you think about his chances? Let me see. I have him in my player pool. I'll spill the beans on that. I got some Adam Scott. Main reason I'm playing him is his wedge play. So it's not the fact that he's rested, right? Obviously, he's an Aussie, so he's got that going for him. But all the narratives aside, a great player from 75 to 100, a great player from 100 to 125 yards. You're going to see at least 7 to 8 of your approaches this week from that range, particularly if it's firm and fast, maybe even a few extra from those wedge ranges. And I like him in those ranges a whole lot. He pops across pretty much every single one. Wilson Dog says, how many birdies do you think John Daly is going to get? If I had to guess, 3, because I'm taking the over on 2.5 birdies on prize picks. So if I had to guess, it'd be 3. And Mark says, Peter, I've backed Cam Smith and Leishman. Yeah, so you're going with the whole Aussie narrative. I kind of agree with you there. I like all those plays. I don't want to spoil my whole player pool there, but yeah, I'm playing all the Aussies, that's for sure. Let's talk about a few of these guys here. So we talked about Willie Z on my fades and sleepers. I think he's royally underowned. Now, apparently he's Ander cursed this week. If you guys know what that is, somebody who every time he picks somebody goes out there and misses the cut. I'm not going to worry about it, right? Somebody messaged me that on my video. It was like, oh, he's Ander cursed, whatever. It's a guy making his picks, right? Whatever. If he doesn't misses the cut, I can have somebody to blame for it now, right? I can say, oh, he was Ander cursed. We should have known it was coming. But he's like 11% owned, like ridiculous. He finishes second place in every single major, or at least most majors. He's finishing in the top 10 at the very least. Yeah, I'm buying in. 12% owned Will Zalatoris. Are you kidding me? Cam Smith is chalk. I'm still playing it. So we talked about that a second ago. I absolutely love Cam Smith this week. Patrick can't play in major championships until he will. Someday he'll break through, shut us all up, but I could see it. Shane Lowry, I love. I talked about him. Dustin Johnson, guys. Man, maybe worth a few looks as a little sleeper pick, a little pivot play in this 9K range. Apparently he's hitting his wedge as well this week, which is exactly what you need for this course. I talked about Hideki as a low-owned play during my core picks video, and that's exactly what we're getting. Single-digit owned Hideki Matsuyama. So I will certainly be there in bunches. Louis Oosthuizen at $8,800. I like him too. Another super low-owned play that we expected to be single-digit owned. He will be, at least per my projections as of right now. And a lot of the reports are that he looks pretty solid too. He's finished top 10 at both live golf events. Also finished top 10 on a DP World Tour event a few months ago. Tommy Fleetwood, we talked about that fade. Just ridiculous that he's 18% owned. Tony Finau, chalk. I'm not the only one who's playing him this week. We kind of expected that, right? He was modeling great for us. Everything looked good for him. He's playing in the advantageous wave, so he has that going for him too. He's chalk. I mean, he's in the good wave, right? If he was in the bad wave, maybe we'd be fading Tony Finau, but I'm not. Speaking of bad wave, Max Homa is in the bad wave. This is slightly dicey, to say the least here. He's about 20% owned too. We expected him to be chalk. I knew this on Monday, right? No, I should say Tuesday when the value picks video came out. I'm standing behind it. Now the wave thing doesn't help, right? That made me kind of second think it, at least think it over with Max Homa. But when I was looking at some of the optimal lineups, especially for the large field GPPs, which is what I'm playing, right? I'm playing to win 100 grand. You're going to have somebody come out of that quote unquote bad wave, maybe two, maybe even three people out of the bad wave, crack the optimal lineup. I think Max Homa has by far the best chance of anybody in the 7K range to do so. So I'm not going to fade him, right? I loved him going into Monday just because the weather's not there. It's not going to take me completely off of him. And now I'm not going crazy on it, right? He's like 20% owned. I'm not playing 40% this week. If you on the Patreon, by the way, I'll tell you how much I'm playing of them, just to give you an idea of what I'm doing there. But it's not going to be 40%. Hell, it's not even going to be 35% for Max Homa. I'm taking a pretty conservative stance on him. Let's just say that. Robert McIntyre, I love. 3.2% owned. Like, are you kidding me? Robbie Mac, 3.2% owned. 7,800 bucks. He missed the cut last week. He's overpriced. So maybe that's why he's 3.2% owned. But he's more than willing to bounce back. He's shown an ability to do it in the past. He loves open championship setups, has had some pretty solid finishes at the Open. And he's a young up-and-coming stud. He's going to put up some solid performances here soon that really wow some people. Tiger Woods, guys. I talked about him a little bit already. I love Tiger Woods here. He's 4.2% owned. He's going to be completely overlooked. I'm not going crazy on it, right? I'm playing right around 10% myself, but I will be there in bunches. Justin Rose loves himself a major championship. So that was the thinking there, but he's also playing a lot better golf over the last few months. So perhaps trending in the right direction. Keegan Bradley is a very, I don't want to say like he's a good wind player, right? Because there's no way to really quantify that, but he has the type of ball flight you need for windy conditions, which is a low spin, low ball flight, low apex height, low spin player. Those are the guys that tend to play well in the wind. So I will be getting to Keegan Bradley, even off a missed cut at the Scottish. Kevin Na, he hasn't played well in the live. So, unlike Louis Oosthuizen, he's not really trending in the right direction. But before he left the PGA Tour, he was gaining in bunches with the wedge play. Oh, I didn't black that out. So you're going to have to actually, whatever. It's shots gained metrics, right? What are you going to do? Screenshot this and go look at shots gained. There's a million other databases you have access to. Like, he's getting 0.89 shots gained approach per round. So that's pretty damn solid. Again, that was a long time ago. It's almost irrelevant. But before he left the PGA Tour, he was playing some pretty solid golf. So maybe he's forgotten. He's super low owned. So a pivot play in that 7K range. Chris Kirk I talked about before. I absolutely love the play. Super safe play. Just like Justin Thomas and Cam Smith, he popped in every single of the wedge ranges. So from 50 to 75, from 75 to 100, from 100 to 125 yards. He was top 10 in all categories. Same thing with JT and Cam Smith. I mean, that's why they're chalky. Well, JT's not really chalk, but Cam Smith, that's why I'm taking him as chalk. I mean, I'm really hunkering down on the wedge play. That's the narrative. That's the stance that I'm really going with this week. And he checks that emphatically. So I love myself some Chris Kirk. We're going to talk about some of the guys that are blacked out. So a few guys I just want to talk about. First off, we talked about Brandon Wu a little bit earlier. Definitely worth a few looks. But hey, Trey Mullinax, winner from last week, got into the field because he won the Barbasol. He's $6,200. I think you could do a whole lot worse. Keita Nakajima, he is the world #1 amateur. Maybe worth a few looks there. Somebody mentioned Chan Kim. He's super cheap. I won't be there myself, but I understand it. Thurston Lords. If you look at shots gained metrics, mostly from the Scottish from last week. But if you look at some of his finishes on the DP World Tour, he is the hot commodity this week. Everyone wants to play some Thurston Lawrence. Will I be there? Absolutely fucking not. I mean, it's from one performance that everybody's getting this modeling from. Everyone's like, oh, he's such a good player, such a good ball striker. Yeah, because you have a 4-round sample size of him playing well in one event. Like, come on, jabronis, look at your fucking sample. Like, it shows it on your shots gained database, how many measured rounds they have for him. He has 4 measured rounds total in his shots gained career. Tell me how he's going to go out there and model well. My ass. He has 4 fucking rounds. Like, sorry, I got to drop all these F-bombs, but people are just stupid sometimes, like when they're looking at their stats. Like, you have to understand that anything less than a 50-round sample size is extremely, extremely open to volatility. I mean, just to give you an example, Patrick Cantlay was losing 2 events ago, like half a stroke per round with his putting. Now, over that same sample size, just 2 events later, so 8 rounds added to that sample size, he's gaining like a third of a stroke per round with the putter. I mean, and that's over a 24-round sample size. Get out of here with your 4-round sample size saying that Thurston Lawrence is like the second coming of Keegan Bradley. Like, no, he's probably jack shit ass. So there's a reason why he's not even that good on the DP World Tour, right? So there's guys like that you want to avoid. Like, there's your model heroes. There's a few of them in this field. Thurston Lawrence is one of these quote unquote model heroes that you've got. Let me give you a few other ones. So there's a few other ones in this range. Jason Scrivener. If you do any type of modeling this week, it's like, oh, Jason Scrivener's like the next coming of Tiger Woods. No, he's not. Okay, he had a good week last week. He has a few good rounds of shots gained metrics. Justin Harding, same type of player. Everyone thinks he's like the next coming of Jesus because of how he played last week. Thomas Dietrich, his shots gained from last week completely overshadow what he's done of late. Don't buy into these one-round sample sizes. Like, they're going to be like 3 to 4% owned, which is like 10% higher, I should say 10 times higher owned than a lot of their peers here. And they have almost, I'd say, the same type of chance of actually coming through for the winning lineup as a lot of their peers. So just understand that sample size is everything. I mean, even Alexander York, I thought I was going to play him there, and I looked at his stats. We have like no sample size for his shots gained metrics. So unless you're somebody that's a DP World Tour regular and you were already going to play them, right? Like, the hype is not why you're on these players, then by all means, right, use Thurston Lawrence. If you're somebody who really knows his game, he's watching him every week. But if you're looking at your model and you're going, ooh, he's top 20 in my model this week, so I'm going to play him. Like, he is top 20 in my modeling this week. I'll spill the beans on that. Thurston Lawrence, early in, he was like top 5 in my modeling. I had to adjust some things to make sure that he wasn't top 5 in the modeling, completely throwing things off. But he's not a top 5 player. He's not a top 20. He's probably like 120, 130 in the field in terms of talent. We'll catch up on chat, see what's going on. Make sure we're not having any technical errors, which looks like we're pretty good to go here. Let me see what we've got. So it looks like I didn't mean to roast you here, big dog. I promise. I didn't see your question down there in chat. I promise you. I've gone that same question planet 30 times this week, and I think it's because of the shots gained metrics. And I'm assuming you're saying he may be a sleeper because of that. It's the sample size, bro. Like, he might be good. I might have to eat a shoe after this if he goes out there and has a really good round. In fact, like, we'll make up some type of punishment if he finishes in the top 10, something like that. I can almost guarantee you, bro, that he goes out there and misses the cut this week. It's a small sample size thing. Trust me on that. Cash Ken says Kennedy or Zanotti in a large field GPP. Can neither be an answer. I'd go Zanotti though. Zanotti's a pretty good putter, pretty good short game player. Hosny says thoughts on Poston and Tringale. I would go Poston if I had to choose between the two, but riding the hot hand at that different golf course, obviously Scottish Open, it's in Scotland, so a lot of people use it as a comp course. I'm not sure I'm as big on that this week. I think they're going to be a little bit too popular for me. Ryan says, what are your favorite guys or bets you like to place for top 20? So I don't want to give you my whole card. Part of that is for the Patreon page, but it's the guys down low that are consistent, like a Chris Kirk, right? He's a perfect pick for a top 20. In the 6K range, Young Kim, you're going to get some pretty solid odds on him to finish top 20. I like to take guys down low, right? When you start to get into guys in the 8K range, your odds are going to be completely shot for top 20. Justin Rose, Tiger Woods probably isn't the worst top 20 bet, to be quite honest with you. Guys with some value out there. We got Mito says, thoughts on Mito. I do not hate him this week. He's like 4% owned. People are getting really tired of playing Mito Pereira, so maybe it's the time to jump on. And he also said that Rose is a steal this week. I agree. I really like Justin Rose. Nick Marr says, how can I avoid Zach Johnson? Oh. So yeah, I'm with you on Zach Johnson. I kind of like him. He got the side eye from me. He's not in my personal player pool, but yeah, the course history, right? If you're looking at that type of narrative, you're trying to find people that are creative. He's won at Augusta National. He's won here. He finished what? I don't know if it was second place, but I believe it was like top 10 the other time he played at St. Andrews. Yeah, if you're a course history buff, you're all in on Zach Johnson this week. Now, am I a course history buff? No. Can I be from time to time? When it fits my narrative, right? When it makes plays that I'm picking look better. Sure, I'm going to be a course history narrative, but I'm not going to be on a Zach Johnson this week. But would I play Tiger in single entry? I am. I am. I'll just give you the answer there, Nick. He's in my single entry lineup. So yes, I would play him in single entry. He's kind of like this, like, everyone knows Tiger Woods. He's going to have all the hype on him. No one's playing him this week. He's kind of like my best kept secret here. I'm going with it. Like, I'm riding it. He could very easily miss the cut, look horrible tomorrow, or he could completely shove it in people's faces. And I'd love to see that. That'd be so good for the game of golf, particularly at St. Andrews. Just, I couldn't think of a more perfect thing to happen. Matthew Jones says, any Wise love? I don't love his around the green play, so I'm not going to be there. I am an Aaron Wise truther. So, if I'm off Aaron Wise, It probably should be a little bit of a red flag, but he's played some good golf, particularly at the PGA. He looked pretty solid. Steven says Gooch Reed or Jordan Smith, Jordan L. Smith, for anybody out there. That's tough because I like all three, boss. If I had to pick one as my last man in, probably Reed. Probably P. Reed with his around the green play from another planet. Chris Palmer says Jordan Smith or Fox in cash. Jordan Smith for me. I think you can ride the hot hand with him. Jack Fisher says Kita Nakajima is certainly one for the future. The Japanese golf media rate him as highly as Hideki. Yes, and I've seen tape of Kita Nakajima playing. His golf swing looks like Adam Scott, first of all. It's one of the more beautiful golf swings that you've seen. And he has unbelievable power for an extremely frail-looking person. I mean, he looks like Rory McIlroy, right? He's not very big, kind of a short guy. He's not big in stature. But Kita Nakajima hits the ball a country mile. He hits absolute fucking piss missiles out there. I mean, if you want to see somebody with smash factor, which is the ratio of somebody's ball speed to their club head speed, I believe Kita Nakajima has the record for it in the world. So in terms of like ball striking solidness, nobody's a better ball striker than this kid. Yes, Jack, I'm playing him this week. You know how I talked about him as like a potential play? I kind of like glanced over it, didn't want to talk about it too much. He's kind of like my Tiger Woods this week. I'm playing him and I think he could finish top 10. I think that's legit. And he's like $6,200. Planet Warrior says Lawrence in the same league as Jarvis. No idea what Jarvis is getting low. Yeah, I agree. Like he's mispriced. And again, I'm not a whole DP World Tour guy, so don't take my word on him too much there. But I think he's going to be like 5% owned, which, like, you know, for a guy in that range is a little bit outrageous. Planet Warrior says, how you feeling about KH Lee? I'm not a huge fan on him, to be honest. Let's see, where's he priced at? He was one of the guys who was added late, $6,800. So he's cheap. He's got that going for him. I like Luke List more. So for me, I'm not going to have him because I like guys priced around him a little bit more. Planet, but I could see it. He's a better player than that price tag. NSN says, thoughts on Poston? I mean, what? Second place finish, first place finish, back-to-back weeks. I think you could do a whole lot worse. I really like him to make the cut. I actually bet him to make the cut this week. I think he might be dealing with a little bit of, let's say, fatigue, right? He just won his first golf tournament for a few years there. Has a lot of security with his job now, Isaiah. But yeah, I like him to make the cut. I don't know if he's going to contend this week, though, man. He's got to be on cloud 9 because of that win. Catch Me If You Can says, where's Bubba? Rehab? God, who knows? Maybe he didn't even qualify, man. Maybe not even qualified for this event. Chris Palmer says, Xander or Spieth in cash? That would be Xander for me. I think Xander in cash makes a lot of sense. Don't think you have to fade him there. Tom T says, what do you think about Willett or Haddon after they play well here? They've played well here at the Alfred Dunhill Links. Yes, and there's a few other guys I like that played well at the Dunhill. Not going to talk about them all here. Those are Patreon like specific picks because they're all really sneaky. But I'll give you one. Victor Perez played really well around this venue. Tom T, I think you're onto something there, dude. If you look at those Alfred, I can't say the name of it. The DP World Tour event that's here at St. Andrews. Yeah, I think you can find a lot of good history there. Peter says Bazainhout has somehow made his way into my player pool. Do we like him or not? I'm not there personally, Peter, but I could see it. Bazainhout, good short game player, right? He's not long off the tee, but with these firm and fast conditions, he's going to still have plenty of wedges into greens. And if you look at his proximity stats with his approach play, he's a loser in all of the long iron categories, and he's a slight gainer in all of the short iron categories, including wedges, like from 50 to 75 yards. Those are the type of players that I like getting to this week. So, Peter, I could see it with Bazainhout. He's not a personal favorite of mine. He's not in my set of lineups to this point. But I could see it for sure. And I'll just remind you guys, make sure to like the video if you're in here. Let's pump those numbers up there. Justin Wilson says, Poston hits stretches like this from time to time. And you're going to ride it. Yeah, it makes sense, man. Like if you think he's going to ride that momentum, then by all means play him, right? He's not a bad play. I think he's just a better pick to make the cut. Like that's where I got my exposure. I went out there, I bet him to make the cut because you're still getting some pretty solid odds on Poston. I got, what was it, like -110 on JT Poston to make the cut. I think he's got much better odds than that. PY23 says Jordan Smith. I love Jordan Smith. Matthew Jones says, how about the angry Thomas Peters? He's a little bit chalky. I don't understand that with Peters. He's like 9% projected owned. So I'm not going to be there due to ownership, Matthew. But I mean, if he was reasonably owned, yeah, I'd love him this week. I'd be on him too. I just don't understand why everyone and anyone's playing Thomas Peters. Like he's a sneaky pick, right? He's not like jumping off the board at us. So I'm a little bit disappointed about that, Matthew, but I don't hate the play. There's a reason why he's chalk, I guess, right? There's a reason why he's 8% owned because he's a pretty solid play. Radar says, are Spieth and Rory really going to go 14.5 out of 15 JR? There's 18 greens, right? So there's 15, and the average size around here is about 15,000 square foot. So yeah, you're going to see guys that go 18 for 18 tomorrow. You're going to see guys that go 17 for 18 quite frequently, particularly the guys playing in the morning wave with the receptive conditions. So yeah, man, I think so. I have a lot of guys projected for like 15 or maybe even like 15 and a half greens at this golf course. Jack Fisher says, who's your biggest, who's got the biggest Popeye forearms, Paul Casey or Jordan Smith? That's a great question. It's got to be Paul Casey, right? Paul Casey literally looks like Popeye. But yeah, Jordan Smith, you see his legs? He's got freaking tree trunks for legs too. Jordan Smith, he's not like a big, tall dude, but he's thick. Yeah, dude, he's got freaking Popeye arms, that's for sure. Ruffin Days says, if you only had one lineup, who are your two core golfers? Those are what the core picks are for. So I'd say that I would take a JT or a Jordan Spieth, and I'd take either a Cam Smith or a Hideki. I'd go in that direction, take 2 out of those 4 players. Those are what the core picks are for. Like if I only had one lineup, those would be the guys that I'm starting my lineups with. Jeff says, what will Griot's ownership be? I'll give you an exact number. We don't even have to speculate. So give me a second here. Open recent. Let me make sure I don't have it. Good. We're not giving the goods away here. Let me see what we got. Griot. Here you are, $6,700, 2.4%. So nothing crazy on Griot there. He's relatively low owned. And that's despite him playing pretty well. So what did he finish last week? Did he miss the cut? And I'm just completely tripping. Maybe I am. No, he finished in second place at the John Deere. That's right. We played him that week too. I should really have known that. But yeah, I don't hang a million on Griot. He's 2.4% owned. I'm not going to be playing on myself, man. But yeah, super low owned, Jeff. Rod says, I meant each. Gotcha. He said, so 14.5 for Rory and 15 for Rory. Sorry, I got that looked. Yeah, I see them going over it. Now, 15 as a projection, I would not take the over on, right? I'm not expecting somebody to hit 16, but 14.5, yeah, I'd still hit that line. Wilson says, Lee Westwood, I'm not there personally. He didn't look good at the Live Tour event. Rockvice says, how would you fade Neiman, or say, sorry, how would you? Would you fade Neiman or Homa for one? Wow, cannot read right now, guys. Sorry, it's a little bit misworded there. Would you fade Neiman or Homa for day one only, knowing they're playing with Tiger? So I talked about this a little bit earlier. The Tiger effect is a lot more impactful on the group playing ahead of Tiger, or the group actually playing behind Tiger Woods, because the groups that are trying to get in position to watch Tiger Woods have to go ahead. So they're going to go to the hole that the group ahead is on, and in bunches, and make a lot of sound when maybe they're in the middle of their shots. The groups behind, you'll have guys that are leaving the Tiger Woods group and just kind of lingering around that kind of heckle and make a lot of noise for the groups behind them. So you've always heard that the groups that are actually playing with Tiger Woods aren't affected because, they're watching Tiger, right? They're watching the action. And when someone else is hitting, they're not going to talk, right? They're going to be respectful. It's the groups around that group that get no respect, right? Because you're going to run to go watch Tiger Woods' next shot. You're not going to worry about being respectful to your peers or the guys on the hole next to you. So Rockface, I'm not worried about Homa or Neiman. I'm worried about the guys playing ahead of them, which I haven't heard a lot of people talking about this week, but that's been widely publicized for a long time about Tiger. We've known this since the early 2000s, that the groups ahead of Tiger are the ones that you really got to look for with that. And the ones that complain, after the round, you'll hear guys that complain about the Tiger effect. It's always the group ahead that's complaining. Maria says, people talking narrative about Mitchell like they did with Fitz at the US Open. The real narrative is Mito losing at St. Andrews as a 15-year-old. Wow. I didn't know that. That's a new one to me there, Mightiest. I did not know that about Mito. That's interesting. Nick says, any hole-by-hole props you have your eye on? So for me right now, I'm going to wait for some of my analysis. I do like the whole 18 unders. They're at 3.5. It's drivable. It'll be firm and fast. I expect to see a lot of eagles, also a lot of birdies there on hole 18. But for holes 5, 9, I believe 14 is the other hole-by-hole prop there on Prize Picks. I'm going to wait until we at least get 1 to 2 groups that have played that hole. Get an idea for what the scoring average is looking like, because as of right now, it really depends on setup. And we do have a pin sheet, but we don't have the contours. We can't see the degree of slope on that part of the green, that sort of thing. And that's really what it is. That's really what it's all about here at St. Andrews, is the undulations in the green. So I'm going to wait on that, Nick, but I do like the whole 18 ones. They have the pin location just over the false front on 18. It's a, 360 something yard par 4, and it's going to play closer to 320 yards. So you're going to see plenty of people get on that surface. Zach says, is it okay to have picked a bunch of 8K guys? I have lineups that start with DJ. that started at 9,200 bucks. So certainly, yeah, you can be super balanced this week. Wilson says Richard Bland. I could see it. He likes firm and fast conditions. And Nick Marr says Francesco Molinari got huge forearms too. I never noticed that, Nick. I'm going to have to take a look at that the next time I watch him on the broadcast. I mean, it makes sense. He's like powerful for a little dude, for an Italian. You know, he gets out there and he hits it a long way. So I guess it makes some sense. I'm going to bring up DraftKings now, guys, and we're going to talk through some strategy, just like lineup making process, thought process as we put together a cash lineup and then a GPP lineup. So bear with me, but I bring up a contest. Draft team. There we go. And yeah, guys, they're really cracking down on the lineup sharing thing. So I could not give you all 6 picks. I got another email about it, and I've been pretty good about it, guys. Right? Like I've told you, we're only going to go over the 4 picks and whatnot, and they're still giving me shit about it. So we're gonna have to be a little bit careful about this. So we're gonna do let's do the cash lineup first. Let's do the conservative lineup. Let's do the chalk donkey lineup, right? We're just trying to take the highest projected plays. I think starting with Xander, you almost have to do it in cash. For your second man in, probably want to take another 9K guy. Maybe the top of the 8K range is calling your name. For me, Cam Smith, somebody like a Shane Lowry makes a lot of sense. Let's put Shane Lowry in there just because he's a little bit cheaper. That puts us at 77 remaining per slot. Let's go to the bottom of the 8K range. Tony Finau, a great play there, also playing in the morning wave. Same thing with Xander. Lowry, I can't remember what wave he's in off the top of my head, but it might be morning wave. Actually, let me think. Cam Smith, I believe. Now I got to look this up, guys. So give me a second here. Because if Cam Smith is playing in the morning and Shane Lowry is in the afternoon, like I'd obviously rather play Cam Smith if he's playing in the morning, and obviously rather play Lowry if it's the other way around. Let me double check on that for you guys, because that's important, especially when it comes to cash. And cash, I think you do want to be on the AM, guys, as much as humanly possible. So let's see what we got. Cam Smith and Shane Lowry. So Shane Lowry's playing in the morning wave. Yeah, that's fine. Take him at 9,300 bucks. That makes a whole lot of sense. Put us at 7,500 bucks. Let's see. We can go to the top of the 7K range. See, I'd like Max Homa, but he's in the PM wave. I'm trying to avoid that as much as humanly possible. Webb Simpson playing in the morning. I like that. Love his price tag there too. It's 7,500. Let's see what we got here. P. Reed at 73. He's in the morning wave. And lastly, at 7,500 bucks, we're not taking Tiger in cash. Don't worry, guys. Probably Billy Ho, right? Take a safe pick, somebody who's a solid ball striker. In cash, I think you should take 2 9K guys, 1 8K guy, and then live in the 7K range for your lineup. I did it again. I'm such a doofus, guys, when it comes to making these lineups. These are the 4 I go with when I'm making a cash lineup, right? Obviously, round it out with 2 guys that you like there in the 7K range. That's a good way to make your cash lineup, guys. I did the same thing last week too. That's great. Let's talk about this GPP lineup. So we're going to talk about my top 4 for a GPP build. And this is assuming the large field GPP, like the 150 max, 100K to first type of contest. And for me, it depends on how aggressive you want to be up top. Like you can start with an 11K option, guy towards the top, like a John Rahm, something like that. Or you can be a little bit more balanced. Let me show you what a more aggressive mindset would look like. So you could take a Rory McIlroy as a second man in. I love Willie Z. Talked about him this week. Maybe you go that direction. And as a third man in, you could probably still be relatively aggressive. And let's say take a Max Homa, right? That puts you at $7,100 remaining per spot. Like you're going to have to go down here into the 6K range, right? If you're taking Rory McIlroy, you're going to have to get a little uncomfortable, right? You might have to take somebody like a Luke List, for example. That puts you at $7,300. You probably make that work. But for example, if you're starting with somebody, let's see, I talked about DJ a little bit earlier, right? You do that, you have $8,200 remaining per slot. I mean, you can live in the 8K range if you want to. So it depends on how aggressive you're being up top, what your last 2 man in are going to look like. I mean, even if we take Luke List out of there, right? Let's look at what our average money is. $8,000 remaining per slot. It's a lot easier to build lineups when you're avoiding that 11K range, but obviously they come with the upside as well. So when I'm building my lineups, those are going to be my main 2 builds, right? It's going to be like one guy up top, a guy here in the 9K range, rounded off with some 7K dudes, or it's going to be extremely balanced, where maybe my most expensive player is Will Zalatoris. My second man in is somebody like a Shane Lowry, somebody like a Dustin Johnson, and I can really take guys I'm comfortable with across the board. I like that type of build. It makes me feel a little bit more comfortable. But at the end of the day, in large field GPPs, I know that getting to somebody like a Rory McIlroy at $11,000 brings a ton of upside. And I don't think he's going to be super chalky this week, somebody like Rory McIlroy. So, depending on your build there, I think it's going to make the rest of your lineup look a little bit different. That's the type of avenue I'd go with. We'll catch up on chat, see what we got going on before we hop on out of here. Zach says, I'm excited, got 8 Red Bulls and cigarettes to stay up all night. Yeah, I'm actually going to bed as soon as this ends. I've been, actually took a melatonin before I got on stream here, which is a horrible idea, by the way. Never do that. I was trying to like prime myself for sleep, which is just not how that works. It just makes you tired. Or you're trying to do work while I'm here on stream. But yeah, we're going to sleep after this, and then I'm waking up early. But yeah, there's 2 ways to do it, right? Either stay up all night and watch the golf, or try to go to bed early. I'm taking the second approach. Renzi says JT over Bryson matchup. I love it. It's my favorite matchup on the board. Jack Fisher says just bet Kita Nakajima at 3.5 to be top amateur. Only danger is Sam Bairstow. Yeah, dude. 3.5 to 1 to be the top amateur. Yeah, he's top am this week. I can almost guarantee it, Jack. I love that. Sack says, hey, is Guido a good cheap player? I could see it. And he wants my insight on HV3. I like HV3 this week. He's got the creativity needed for one of these link style setups. Now, he hasn't shown it all that much at Opens in the past, but you saw it at Austin Country Club when he had that WGC. Obviously, a lot of those were televised. And anytime you're playing a matchup type golf, match play as what they were doing there, it's all about getting up and down, right? Never giving up. And he hit some recovery shots that were Jordan Spieth-esque. And honestly, Jordan Spieth's like the perfect fit for this golf course. So I like it, Zach. I could see it. Renzi says, Rory Brooks matchup. I don't want to touch that one. I don't like that one, man. I think Brooks is he's a heck of a play this week, to say the least. And Wilson says, hey, Luke, what is your favorite club to use in golf? Is it the iron, driver, or the wedge? Dude, that's such a good question. That's a really good question, dude. And we'll end it on this one. So what's my favorite club to hit? My favorite when it have it working is the putter, because you can just completely erase all of your mistakes on a hole, right? Like you can put it to 25 foot for a par putt, which is a horrible look on a hole, right? Like you feel like you're defeated, right? You're 20 feet for par. Like, wow, I'm going to, bogey this hole. Then you make a par putt and you feel like you're on top of the world. So I would say the putter, but in terms of consistency, like what I'm actually good at, like what I enjoy hitting, it's got to be my 58-degree wedge. I love hitting my wedges because I'll use that for full shots from anywhere between 70 to 100 yards. And I usually stick it to like 5 to 10 feet. Like if we were looking at wedge specialists on the PGA Tour or for amateurs, I'd be like a 99 out of 100 when it comes to that ability. I'm really good at this field wedge shots and around the green. Like it's my favorite thing to do. Like I really enjoy the art of getting up and down, playing golf as it's meant to be. I mean, Seve Ballesteros is like my idol when it comes to golf. A lot of people look up to Tiger Woods. I get it. Makes sense. He's the most accomplished golfer of all time. When it comes to actual skill set, like who I believe the most talented golfer of all time was, it's Seve Ballesteros. It's not even close. I think there's a country mile between him and Tiger Woods when it comes to their actual talent level. Now, when you're talking about dedication, strength, mental capability, that's where Tiger Woods takes the edge. That's why he's the greatest of all time. When you're talking about just pure pulling off golf shots, Seve Ballesteros, that wedge play is what I think true golf is all about. So I got to say the wedge play. I like when my putter gets hot, but yeah, the wedges, it's where it's done. Like those shots when you're on a rock, like in the forest, right? I like hitting those golf shots. I really enjoy them. And in fact, I will put golf balls in hazards in the middle of bushes, for example, just to try to hit the shots. I mean, obviously you hurt yourself every once in a while. You'll hit a tree, and then you won't want to do it for a few months, but that's what golf's all about. So yeah, dude, I think it's the wedge play. It's a great question. I guess we got a few other questions we'll talk about here before we hop out of here. Todia says, thoughts on Law and Foxy? I like Foxy more, but I don't really like them. I don't like Wise. I did give my full thoughts on him a little bit earlier, though, Dave, so you might want to check that out. Tom T says, best senior player, Harrington. I could see it, and he's obviously won 2 Opens, so I think you could do a lot crazier things there, Tom. Renzi says, what's your favorite BOB matchups? That's going to be JT. Definitely JT. Renzi says, what do you typically shoot on a course? Well, I'm a 7 handicap, so obvious answer would be +7, but of late, my last few rounds, and this is at a par 71, I shot a 74, a 75, a 72, and a 78. So I'm playing better than a 7 handicap right now, Frenzy. So it's a difficult question, right? Obvious answer would be 7, but I'm playing some really good golf of late. Rod says crazy talk, and I see Seve play. I don't think he's not crazy talk, dude. If you're talking about actual talent level, like getting the ball on the green to 2 feet from impossible positions, I take him over any other player in history. Like I literally don't care who it is. I've seen enough tape. I've seen enough golf shots of him hitting from impossible spots to know the talent when I see it. I mean, I'm thinking of the shot on his knees at St. Andrews where he's hitting out of a bush. He's the only player in the history of the tour that could pull that off. I mean, Jordan Spieth's not pulling that off. He's not, and he's like the second coming of Seve Ballesteros. So I'll disagree with you there, Rod. It's not crazy talk. Seve Ballesteros, the most talented player of all time, in my opinion. But we'll go ahead and end it on that, guys. I'm really looking forward to this week. I think the winner is going to be somebody like a Seve that goes out there, pulls off one of these crazy escapes there on a Saturday or Sunday, and that's usually who ends up winning at this golf tournament, right? It's an open championship, right? Links style golf tends to play into that type of thing. And I mean, 17 guys. For day 117, the pin location is in the back right next to the road. So expect to see some of that carnage as early as Thursday. And I mean, those type of golf shots are going to be what differentiates the field. You know, what ends up taking somebody from a top 5 finish at a major, which is pretty decent, to being the champion, is pulling off that type of save there. So I'm really looking forward to it, guys. I really think, especially there on Saturday and Sunday, we're going to see something crazy happen. Whether it's, somebody stuck against a pot bunker with a few holes to go, and it's going to take somebody from maybe a 1 to 2 shot lead to tied. That road hole, maybe they put the pin location on the back right again, like what we're going to see there for Thursday, which, it's like the Sunday pin location. The location they're using for tomorrow, guys, is like the hardest pin location in golf. The back right at the road hole on 17 is unfair. It's impossible to get the ball close there. And in fact, I was kind of joking with the people in my Discord that you should probably lay up to the front right of that green and just try to chip on and 2-putt and take your bogey. I think you may legitimately see players do it tomorrow. I mean, let me think. The most analytical players. I would not be surprised if Victor Hovland goes out there and lays up to that green tomorrow, especially if he misses the fairway. If Victor Hovland is in the rough tomorrow to the left or the right side of hole 17, look for him to lay up. I almost guarantee you that he does it there. So we'll end it on that, guys. I really appreciate all the support. If you haven't already hit that like button, make sure you smash it on your way out. But I appreciate you, and best of luck, guys. One of us is going to GPP. I'm feeling it this week. Got some good juju going into this weekend.